Well, hey there, Mama, and welcome back to the Moms Overcoming Overwhelm podcast, episode number 214. I'm Emily McDermott, and I'm here beside you on this journey as we work together to declutter your home, head, and heart. Okay, so one of the things I love the most, besides the podcast and all of you, is my community on Facebook. So if you haven't already joined us, come on over to tinyurl.com/moms overcoming overwhelm. I think we're almost 800 or 900 moms by now. And I get questions in there about your pain points and what you're dealing with. And I got this feedback from Jennifer M. I asked, what is your biggest pain point when it comes to decluttering? And she said time. I start, then I need to stop and pause due to work or kids, and then it's a mess in transition until I get back to it. How many of you can relate to that? So today we're going to be talking about how to get a decluttering win by focusing on small but meaningful areas, right? Because we can definitely tackle small, and that's what we talk about here. But what if it was something that had a big kind of return on investment for your time, where you would be like, yes, I actually accomplished something today. We love that feeling, right? So why don't you go ahead and grab that notebook and pen, and let's dive into today's episode. Hey Mama, are you tired of your cluttered home and mile-long to-do lists but are too overwhelmed to know where to start? Do you lack the time and motivation and don't think you'll ever conquer the clutter? You're in the right place. I'm Emily, wife, boy mom, and declutter coach who has overcome the overwhelm in my own life through decluttering and simplifying. I believe every mom deserves the peace that comes from a clutter-free home. Ready to get your life back? Let's declutter your home, head, and heart together. Okay, before we jump in, I just wanted to let you know I have been testing something out lately. I have been doing in-home decluttering and organizing in Northern Virginia. And if you are in Northern Virginia or know anyone in Northern Virginia that might need my help, please share my information, share the podcast. You can also direct them to simplebyemmy.com/work with me. But I also have been exploring how to better serve my listeners and potential clients that are not in my area. And I have been experimenting with this using Voxer, which is a walkie-talkie app. So I'm working with someone right now. Her name is Gabrielle. Shout out to Gabrielle if you're listening. And what we're doing is just sort of a back and forth where she's been sending me pictures and videos of a space that she wants to tackle. And then I have been taking her through my transform system step by step. And it's been working out really well. So if you are interested, I have 3 spots for that coaching. It would be 3 weeks of Voxer support, going back and forth as frequently as you're able to work in the space. Remember, I only say you have to focus on it for 10 to 15 minutes a day. And it's going to be my normal price for virtual coaching, which was $97. But instead of a 1-hour session, we're going to be kind of spreading that out over a back and forth for 3 weeks. So if that sounds interesting to you, please go ahead and email me at info@simplebyemmy.com and we can chat more. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and dive in. I wanted to kind of give a little bit more context as to what Jennifer was talking about. And this was the inspiration for today's episode. She said, the big messes take up so much visual space. They seem like the first thing to jump into. Yes, that makes a lot of sense, right? The big things that are really bugging us. And she said, perhaps it's like paying off debt. Don't start with the big debt, but snowball the little debt to build momentum. And she said, I'd love to hear about getting started in small but meaningful places. Love that. Okay, so let's talk about how that would work. What I would like you to do is make your list. And instead of a wish list, let's call this a hit list of the areas that we want to tackle, our top 5 spaces. Now, how are you going to figure out what those are? Well, there's 3 different approaches that I would recommend. And so you can do a combination or whatever feels best to you. You know, if you've been listening any length of time, that I recommend this unsentimental, unemotional areas. And that's what I'm going to call like the low hanging fruit, the things that are easiest to start with. I think a small but meaningful and impactful space might be your vehicle, because we spend so much time in your vehicle, especially if you're taking kids back and forth for activities. So that might be an example of a low hanging fruit, or maybe it's your own bathroom or vanity because you're getting ready every day and you're having to dig through all of this unused makeup or expired medication or expired anything, and you just want to have that streamlined and actually working better for you. So that might be very impactful. The next way that you can make this decision is by how much it's stressing you out. And even if it's a big area, that's okay. I'm going to teach you how to break it down into these smaller projects. But thinking about, okay, is it the kitchen? Maybe it's the living room, maybe it's the playroom. What are maybe an area or two that are stressing you out the most? And the third kind of filter by which you can make this decision is the functionality first method, which is what are some areas that are really not working well that you need to be functional now. So Gabrielle, she is focusing on her entryway because that's where everyone's coming in. And then of course, when you're trying to get out the door, we want to make sure we can find shoes, we can find coats, we can find all the things that we need. So by using those types of decision making processes, you can see, okay, well, I want to have these be my top 5 areas. Okay. So now you have your list. And for each of those items on your list, I want you to ask yourself the 3 F's. And again, this might be a review for some of you, but it's always a good review to have. Asking yourself, number 1, how do I want this space to feel? How do I want it to function? How do I want it to flow? Okay. It's good for you to have this goal, to have this vision for the space, because if you don't, then it's harder to make the decisions and you're not really sure what you're doing. So for example, if we're looking at our vanity or where we keep all of our toiletries and things, then it's okay, I want this to be a calm space where I can get ready in the morning. I don't want the surface of the sink to be covered with a bunch of stuff. I want it to function in that I can get ready easily in the morning. I can do my makeup, I can brush my teeth, I can put my contacts in, I can do all that quickly, and that I can flow from getting out of the shower to getting ready, getting dressed, getting out the door. So we want to make sure that there's no kind of friction, nothing that is impeding us from one activity to the next. That's kind of the flow. Okay. So we've made our list of 5, and then we're asking ourselves the 3 F's and kind of reflecting on that a little bit. And then you're going to pick one of those first areas. Now, because we're only going to be doing something that's 15 to 20 minutes at a time, it doesn't matter exactly what you start with in the list of 5. You can kind of make that decision. It's up to you. But we want to break down the area if we need to, based upon zones, if we have a larger area. Okay, so I'm going to give you a couple of examples of that. So let's say that one of your 5 is the kitchen. Now, obviously, there's a lot going on in the kitchen. There's a lot of different categories. We have the fridge and the freezer. We have the pantry. We have the kitchen table, and then maybe where we're keeping things like silverware or placemats or napkins, that kind of thing. And then we also have all of the other things like our cookware, our spices, all of that. So there's a lot of different categories or zones. So perhaps picking 4 to 5 different zones in that space. So I think it's easiest to start with where the decisions are easiest. And in this case, we want to be looking at food that has expiration dates or a very clear visual like, oh, this isn't good anymore, especially if you're in the fridge. So perhaps you're going to start with the fridge and have that be your first 15 minutes, then the freezer, then the pantry, and you're just doing kind of one spot at a time. And because of that, it's not that you're making an incredible mess and it's hard to be able to clean up. So if you know you have that 15 minutes, you might be able to eyeball, and part of it is going to be experimentation. There might be one day when you think something is going to take 15 to 20 minutes, it ends up taking longer, but you don't have the entire room a mess. It just might be, oh, the spices took a little longer than I thought. Okay, well, I can get to that later in the day or even tomorrow. But it's not like it's taking over, right? The kitchen. Another example might be the bedroom. So, of course, we have our closet. We have our drawers and our dresser with our clothing. We might have a nightstand. We might have bookshelves. So being able to say, okay, I'm going to focus on my dresser. I'm just going to look at 2 drawers right now and be able to make decisions based upon that. Or for your closet, you can look at subcategories based upon what's hanging. So short sleeve shirts, long sleeve shirt, pants, shoes, that kind of thing. So you might have to spend one of the sessions on kind of like going through the initial surface clutter. And in the transform method, if you remember the first 3 letters, T is trash, R is relocation, anything that doesn't belong in the space that belongs somewhere else. And then A is anything you want to declutter. And that's kind of the easy decision making within the space. So it might be you have to look through one of your drawers, or let's say you're in the kitchen. Let's go ahead and maybe do like a utility drawer or a junk drawer. That first initial sweep is just going to be trash. The next is, okay, I don't think that this belongs here. I probably need to have that in my room. And then the third might be, oh, I wanted to donate this book, to my friend. So just being able to kind of note that some of this might be you're doing a sweep based upon the complexity of making the decision. And then you're getting into some of the harder decisions. Also, one of the other things is you might know that you have something from the same category multiple places in the room. And that's something you have to discern as you're going through. So it might be instead of a zone, you're kind of looking at more of that category. For example, books. So you have books on your bookshelves, but you also have a stack of books that's been on top of your nightstand. So perhaps the project for that particular day is books within your bedroom, and then you're able to make those decisions and have everything together. So those are just some of the ways that you can really make a big difference in a small space. And the reason that it's meaningful is because we're kind of making that hit list at the beginning as far as either what's easiest to start with, what's stressing you out the most, or what is really not working when it comes to functionality. Then remember, we're asking ourselves the 3 F's. How do I want this space to feel? How do I want it to function? And how do I want it to flow, so that we really have a vision for how the space is going to work? And then we're breaking down the areas either into categories or into zones, so that if we get interrupted by kids, if we get a call from the school, if we have a work interruption, any of that, we're not left with this huge mess that we just feel completely defeated, but we're able to make a meaningful difference in a small space. And the last bonus tip that I have is that, because a lot of times, and this was something that was mentioned at the beginning, by Jennifer, she was saying, the big messes take up the most visual space. Well, sometimes you might want to be able to start with the surface clutter in any particular area. And by surface, I mean on actual surfaces. So going back to the kitchen, it might be, okay, my goal for today is to spend 15 minutes on the kitchen counter, because it's meaningful, because then we can actually use the kitchen counter to eat, to do homework, to, do those types of things, because it's not cluttered. So perhaps it might be based upon just being able to have the meaningful meaning. It looks a lot different and it has more of that dopamine hit because you're able to go into the space and really feel different. So I hope that was helpful to you. And if you like this method of teaching and you're like, oh, I would love it if Emily could walk me through how to do this in my own, hit list, maybe the first 1 or 2 spaces in my hit list. Remember, I'm opening up 3 virtual coaching sessions via Voxer for the month of November. So just go ahead and email me at info@simplebyemmy.com. I don't have anyone else answering that. It's just me. And if you're in the Facebook group, you can also reach out to me there. And I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your week, and I will see you next time. Bye for now. Hey Mama, thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's show, could you please share this episode with another mom who is feeling overwhelmed? Also, it would mean the world to me if you could leave a 5-star written review wherever you listen to your podcasts. Finally, if you would like more support, come on over to our free Facebook group, tinyurl.com/moms overcoming overwhelm. Can't wait to connect with you soon.